In the last lesson, I have explained you that the camera basically is an independent object, and in this lesson I will show you some more details on this, and I will explain you some of the parameters of the camera. I have created a very small project, a little ship route in the Caribbean. This has only 2 points, a starting point and an end point. The head object is a ship, and the starting point is here and the endpoint down here. So let's go to the camera section. And now we see our ship here at the starting point here in the north, and the ship will go on a straight route here to its endpoint in the south here on the right side of the screen. We have 2 camera points as well, one for the starting point and one for the endpoint. And if we observe the parameters here on the right side, especially the position, then we see longitude and latitude parameters and the zoom percentage. That means the camera can be positioned at every point on the planet, because we can adjust here the longitude and latitude parameters. So the camera point marks a time point in our animation, and at this time point here the camera is at this position. Normally the position of the camera has a relationship to our basic traveling route defined in the route editor, so that the camera normally looks at the head object that moves on the route. But with this system we can place the camera at every point on the Earth. So it's really independent. So I have told you that I made something different here in this project, and I've switched the camera positions between the start and the ending point. So our ship moves from north to south, but the camera moves in the opposite direction. And I've adjusted some other parameters as well. So now let's have a look at the preview window and let's play back our animation. It takes a moment until our ship begins to move, but the camera still doesn't move. And now the camera begins to turn and loses the ship out of the focus. The camera keeps on moving to the north, slowly turning, and on its way it doesn't see the ship. Here I placed some palm trees on this little small island here, and now the camera turns looking south, and now the ship gets in the focus. And this is the proof that the camera is really an independent object in Vasco da Gama. The camera basically has no relationship to the head object or the route where the head object moves on. It's an own independent object in the world of Vasco da Gama. The camera points define the route of the camera, which in most cases, especially when we are at automatic camera mode or when we have switched from automatic to manual camera mode, is identical to the route one where the head object moves. But it can be completely different. And now that we know that the camera is another object in our project, we can adjust some parameters. We can, for example, set a pause time here at the starting point of 2 seconds, so that the camera, just like the ship, will wait a moment until it starts to move. And of course we can set an acceleration of 100%, and we have seen it already. We can adjust the position parameters and the camera zoom, and we can adjust the view of the camera. We can change the azimuth, the pitch and the horizon. So I have changed the pause time and an acceleration distance. Let's go to the preview and play back the animation. The ship starts, the camera still waits, and now slowly starts moving and slowly getting faster. You see, adjusting these parameters you can create wonderful effects, because you can control the camera, the movement of the camera very precisely. Now let's go one step further and I will show you how you can add additional camera points. I will drag the timeline and will move more or less to the middle of our animation, here for example, and with this button here I can set a new camera point, and when I click it, Vasco da Gama introduces the new camera point at this time position here of the timeline. You can see the starting point is obviously at 0 seconds and the end point at 55 seconds, and since we are here more or less in the middle of our animation, the exact time position is 28 seconds and 13 frames. And Vasco da Gama has set the parameters of this new camera point to the parameters that are effective at this very precise moment. This makes working with additional camera points very easy because we have reasonable starting values. And now let's zoom out a little bit, like this for example. And since I have modified now the camera settings, I will save them. And now let's go to the preview window and play back our animation. The ship starts moving. And now the camera moves. But since I've modified the zoom level, now the ship stays in the window. It remains visible. And the ship really has reached by now its endpoint because the camera moves slower than the ship. And now the ship is by some time now out of sight, and now will come back into the camera focus. Now I will move the camera to the opposite side of the ship. For example here, and I will set the new settings. And now let's go again to the preview window and see how our animation looks now. The ship starts moving, the camera starts moving slowly, but this time to the left. And you can see the ship has reached already its final destination. The camera is still moving to the left, and now will stop again because it has reached the second camera point, and now starts moving to the third camera point, flying all the way around the ship to the other side. And I think now I have given you the proof that the camera is a really independent object. You can do all weird camera moves that you like. For example, if you would like to approach with the camera to a ship that goes on the screen from left to right, there is no problem. You can do whatever you like with the camera.